this week's guests. And this is a particularly special interview because, as long-time listeners to the Empire podcast will know, there's a very, very special place in Helen O'Hara's heart for all things supernatural. So when we told her we were talking to Dean Winchester himself, Mr. Jensen Ackles, for season 3 of The Boys, she hopped in her Chevy Impala and drove right over at breakneck speed. Now, we banned her from talking about nipples at any point, but she did sit down with Jensen, as well as The Boys' very own Billy Butcher, Karl Urban, to talk about the insanely violent and violently brilliant superhero series Return. This is what happened.
Hello and welcome to Pilot. So, how are things? How are you surviving The Boys? I mean, you're here unexploded, which is a good start.
It is a good start. We can't say that for all the characters. Yeah, we're great. We're super excited. You know, we worked on season 3 long and hard for 7 months, and we're just at that point where we're handing it over to the audience, and we're super excited for it. It's an explosive, dynamic season. Explosive
is the operative word here. That was one of my questions. What is the worst thing you've been covered in doing this show?
Yeah, blood, definitely. A lot of blood. This would be a good question for Laz. Sadly, he's not here with us today.
Yeah, there's some surprises. There's definitely some surprises.
Yeah, that's one of my, I don't want to say quibbles with the show because I really enjoy it, but I am willing to give you a shiny pound coin if you can go an entire episode without exploding any person or, large mammal.
Well, it's difficult to do when you have a character whose literal superpower is to explode heads. So there's, you're going to have to, you get your quota every episode.
Now, obviously you're in London at the moment. Karl, how does it feel to bring the accent home?
Yeah, you know what? It's great to be here, and the dialect was certainly always presented itself as a major challenge. I mean, you have a British character played by a New Zealand actor, written by American writers, and in the first season, the dialect coach was Canadian. So it was this perfect concussion. In season 2, I actually. I needed more authenticity. And so I brought on board the wonderful, supremely talented Andrew Jack, who was the most preeminent dialect specialist, British dialect specialist. I'd worked with him 20 years ago on Lord of the Rings. And together we went through on season 2, and he really sort of brought this great authenticity and certain colloquialisms to the character. And I was really looking forward to continuing that. But really sadly and tragically, he passed away of COVID while he was working on the Batman. So it's a huge challenge, but it's great to be here. I don't know, whoever the dialect coach is of these cabbies that I keep on encountering, I mean, their dialect is on point. Every single one of them.
You hire one of those guys for season 4.
Whoever they're.
Yeah. In every cab, you can give them your number and ask them to get in touch.
Right.
Start recording on your phone.
Yeah. I actually did that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did that. Before season 1, I was over here in the UK.
And you started recording conversations?
With permission of some of these cabbies, I was literally going around recording conversations in cabs.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, behind the scenes.
Exactly. Thrifty as well. You can save some money.
Very.
So, Jensen, how does it feel to be on an Eric Kripke show with a character named Robert Singer?
It's a little familiar. I got to be honest. Yeah, something very familiar. In fact, when I was my first day on set, there were bus stops and posters and stuff of Jim Beaver with Robert Singer on it, campaigning kind of thing, and it was just he's haunting me. That's what I think it is. Either he's haunting me or he's Eric Kripke's good luck charm. I think it's the latter.
So it's not in your contract that he has to be in the show?
No, it is definitely a Kripke. It's one of Kripke's, through threads that he just loves to kind of put Easter eggs in there whenever he's doing stuff like this. And I think it's great. I think the fans really appreciate it. I appreciate it as a fan of his work. So.
Absolutely. And just coming off of 15 seasons of Supernatural, which is one of my favorite shows ever. I just absolutely adore it. Has it been a huge adjustment? Has it been difficult to kind of, reorient yourself to other work in a way?
Maybe a little bit, but I had this thing called the pandemic that kind of gave me a nice buffer to kind of put that 15 years to bed and lift my head up and figure out what was next. And luckily, it was this, and I knew that it was going to be an amazing opportunity to be on such a widely loved show, even after one season. I was already in talks, and I think I had the role by the time season 2 dropped, and so I was just thrilled and to get into this universe and this world with these guys and shake it up and play somebody different but at the same time, I still think it translated from certainly to the fans of Supernatural going into. I think most of them probably already watching The Boys, so. I think it was an easy transition for me and a fun one, and it just made all the sense. So.
But I mean, Karl as well, you have been in, I feel like, more geek properties than anyone in the world at this point, between Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and this and Riddick and just everything. So, I was going to ask both of you, actually, do you see a difference in fan bases? Is there a different vibe for people when they come up to talk to you and you're like, oh, you're going to be a fan of that. Oh, this person's a fan of that one. Can you tell? It's
interesting, actually. Sometimes you get, when you get people coming up to you, you kind of play this game where they recognize you, but they might not, they can't quite definitively pin down where they've seen you. And so you don't want to stand there and go, is it this? Is it this?
Yeah, you don't want to go down your resume.
So you stand there listing your resume. So what you inevitably do is you sort of look at them and as few guesses as possible, try and nail down which property it is that they've recognized you from. Yeah, but we just feel really kind of blessed that we're a part of this show that has such a phenomenal fan base that we work really hard making the show, and then for it to be so well received and really well loved is such a huge blessing. It spurs us on to do an even better job.
I do feel like genre fan bases are maybe more engaging and more protective of the property that they love. Than non-genre stuff. And I think he and I are both very fortunate that we continue to be able to do these kind of genre shows and films. And audiences, they stick with us, and I think that's great.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk a bit more about, Butcher and Soldier Boy in this season. I mean, first of all, how do you prep for characters like this? Do you spend a lot of time like taking cold showers and just making yourselves furious?
Day one, Jensen he was literally completely naked, bar a little modesty thing. I don't mean little, but...
No. Listen, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah. But, I was, kudos to Jensen because he really worked out. I mean, you were in phenomenal shape, right? I mean, how long, you must have trained for months for that.
Yeah. I was hitting it pretty hard for a good 4 or 5 months. And it wasn't necessarily something that Kripke had said or that anybody had discussed. The only person who put me on that path was the super suit costume designer LJ. She when designing Soldier Boy's suit, I just merely asked. I was like, "Are you going to put some padding in there to make me look like I'm a superhero with muscles?" And she just patted me on the shoulder and very calmly said, "Oh, honey, you're going to bring me some muscles in April." And that was it.
Challenge laid.
And I was like, challenge accepted. Yeah. And so it worked out really hard. And yeah, that was, it was a fun challenge, and I think it paid off. I think it made sense for the character as well.
And he's a slightly different version of Soldier Boy than people have maybe seen in the comics. I think, certainly some of the circumstances maybe have changed, but I think he's, still going to be not the most immediately likable character in all respects. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had actually asked Kripke, I was like, hey, do you want me to study up on the comic version of this guy? And he actually said no. He said, stay away from it. Because he didn't want that to influence what he wanted me to bring to it. So it was used probably more as just an easy a light reference guide, but we really went our own way with it.
I think one of the most commendable aspects about the nature of the writing on this show, and particularly Kripke, is that even the most deplorable characters have elements within their personalities that are eminently relatable and identifiable. So what you may detest a character and what they're doing, you can actually on another level, completely on a humanistic level, relate to whatever their pain or trauma is. And therefore it makes those characters more accessible, and, you know, even the ones that are intrinsically bad you like.
Yeah, and you know, on the other hand, even the ones we're inclined to really like Butcher, he's pushes himself to some pretty dark places this season, and he really kind of tests, I guess, his own ethic, which is kind of no soups, is very much, and we've seen this in the trailer, but this is not a spoiler, but that's very much put to the test this time.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I guess the moral dilemma for Butcher this season was about, you know, what happens when you turn yourself into a monster to defeat a monster. You become the very thing that you are trying to defeat. And what are the ramifications? What is the cost? And, you know, that certainly plays out not only for Butcher, but for every single character in The Boys in season 3 is forced to find where that line is and make a decision about which side of the fence they're going to end up on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in terms of all those other characters around you, and, you know, other people that you find yourself jealous of sometimes in terms of what they get to do and the lengths they get to go to.
I will confess, you know what? I do have a little bit or a lot of jealousy about the female and the extraordinary job that Karen Fukuhara does. I mean, she's the baddest character on the show.
Really good stuff this season.
Is out of this world.
Yeah. There's some sequences that Karen was a part of this season that was, we were all. I mean, I wanted to. I don't know why I wanted to literally show up and watch it being filmed, but with COVID and stuff, they you know, they like to keep people off set that don't need to be there. But it was she got some.
And we had golf to play, and
we did have golf. Yeah, we played some golf.
Who's ahead on points, or is that a sensitive subject for someone?
This guy, but I mean, this guy's he's got a pretty good swing. His maths can be a little bit dodgy sometimes. But he's better. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think I just saw one of the fight scenes you were talking about last night when I was basically just binging episodes ahead of this, and that's not something you see every day. So I'm
cool.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the series brings. I believe, and again, this is something that Kripke has talked about. That the very famous comic Herogasm is coming up in episode 6. This is a show that goes to some places, shall we say? You know, is there anything you think you cannot do on The Boys?
I think 2 stories here. I think you should tell the story about the day you happened to be on set when they were at Herogasm. But firstly, I will just say there came a point in the shooting of season 3 where Jensen had to get on the phone with Kripke and go, you know, I didn't know I had a line, but I have found it. And that's when you know you're in the right spot.
Yep. When you read a script and you're like, wow, I can't do that. And that was a similar reaction that Kripke had. He was just a chuckle. Herogasm, we somehow managed to tackle that this season. And I was on set. There was several stories about being there that day. I'll just give you a quick one. As I walked onto the set that I had not been to yet, our camera guy was sitting there. He was eating a sandwich. He had his mask down, and he had a troubled look on his face. And I said, "You okay, man? What's going on?" He's like, "I've seen some shit today, man." Yeah, there you go.
All right. As long as you're traumatizing the camera crew, then you're probably on the right path,
again,
I guess, for The Boys,
you know you're
right?
in the right spot.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, it's fantastic to see it. I did have one last question, which is really about swearing. Creative swearing, I think, is very much part of Butcher's personality, life outlook. I don't know how to put it. Is that something that you have found yourself carrying over into everyday life, or is this character you can very much put aside, put to one side, and step away from at the end of the day?
I would like to tell you that it has carried over into my real life, but I think if that were to happen, my social circle would diminish significantly. But I certainly, there's a certain lyrical quality about the dialect and the vocabulary that is so much fun to play with, and have a lot of fun with Butcher.
It's rich. It really enriches the character.
Absolutely. And just finally for Jensen, obviously you're working on the Winchesters as well, so you've been getting back into Dean's Head, I suppose, for this. How's that been after The Boys?
That's great. It's easy to do. I've known that character for a few years, so jumping back into that, it was pretty simple, and it'll be fun to take that story for a ride from a voiceover perspective. But I'm looking forward to that as well.
That'll be awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much, both of you, for talking to us, and I can't wait to see the rest of season 3.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great talking to you.
That was Jensen Ackles and Karl Urban, and a very, very excited Helen O'Hara.